lolimbana ndi katangale. Mwina muzaka zimenezi mutha kufotokoza kuti ulendo wa ACB wakhala utani?
Zikomo kwambiri. Zona kuti tinatsegula maofisi athu mu 1998 ndipo mene timaona ma records tinaona kesi yoyamba yomwe inadzapangidwa lodge ku ACB ku inali ku office ya ku Blantyre pa 12 May 1998. Inali kesi yokhuza I think abuse of office malemberedwe anthu ku Malawi Broadcasting Corporation. So that's where we are coming from. Now ukaona from that day to 2023 picture yomwe kubwera ikuonetsa ndithu kuti muchizungu amati mixed bag, zina zabwino zina zoyipa. Ndikaena kuti zabwino tikuona kunena kuti office ngati namba ndithu offices panopo ili ma 4 regional offices, meaning kuti accessibility ilipo. Tikuona kuti over time ngati malamulo amene analenga office ya ACB akhala kusinthidwa ndithu kukonzedwa kuti akhale akuchitira ubwino ku ntchito yothetsa katangale. Mukaona zina ndi zina zomwe zakhala zochitika ku office ma developments or ma interventions amene achitika ngati pano tukamba za ma institutional integrity committees amene akhazikitsidwa ma MDAs ndi cholinga chonena kuti azipanga spearhead ma anti-corruption activities in the institution. Funa kuonetsa kuti ACB singathe kupanga izi payokha. Mukuona ma developments ngati issue ya lifestyle audits yomwe tiwena kuti tikufuna noti pange intensify kuma panga ma audit zinthu zomwe anthu akumakhala nazo chifukwa choti mwina zina apeza mu njira katangale. Tikuona kuti ma process amenewo akuyenda bwino, tikungodikira kuti cabinet ichita approve the lifestyle audit manual. Tikuona kunena kuti over time pachitika ma survey ndithu ambiri amene akhala kunena kuonetsa kuti anthu amaopa kuti asaka panga report nkhani za katangale chifukwa akuona kuti palibe lamulo lomwe likuwateteza kwambiri. And through that tapezeka kuti if ACB tapanga approach ma donors angapo tanemba ma proposal tapeza ma donor amene atha kuti pangira fund kuti tipange develop whistleblower protection law. Tikuona kuti chifukwa titaona kunena kuti mwina kupanga investigate ndi kupanga prosecute ma case zimatenga nthawi zomwe mwina ndi masolire kutsogoloko zimatenga nthawi. Komano ukamaona anthu akufuna kupanga people are demanding justice on corruption kuti chomwe tingapange kushansanga kuti tonetse kuti anthu akufirabe akufa kumva kuti pachitikako justice ndi chani ndiye kuti tizichotsa ma benefits of corruption. Okay, ndimene tikamba za asset recovery using malamulo amene alipo pano Financial Crimes Act onena kuti mukhoza kupanga kulanda katundu wina amene ali ndithu odziwikiratu pali mbononena kuti katundu yusanapezeke mu njira yolondoleka. And kuti tipange intensify zimenezo ku ACB tapanga team ndithu special team ya ma investigators ni prosecutors yomwe ntchito yawo ndikungoyang'ana nkhani za assets. So mukaona ndithu over time pali pachitika ma developments ambiri amene ukuzonena kuti it's towards improving the anti-corruption fight. On the other hand, tikaena kuti law enforcement, that's where we are talking of investigations and prosecutions. So kuna kuti the picture maybe is not as pretty as you would have loved it to be, because tukutha kuti between 1998 to date makesi amene achitidwa lodge is about 35,000. Koma amene apangidwa investigate ndi about 10,000. Now marecords athu ena kukhala gap komano zikuonetsa kuti mwa makesi amene apangidwa investigate between 2004 to 2023 there are about 5,000 that were completed my investigations now. Koma ukaona mosemo ukuona kuti amene anamalizika kupanga prosecute meaning kuti apita ku court kuyambira chaka cha 2004 kufika 2023 ndi makesi 425. Now ukaona kuti ukapanga consider kuti 1998 to 2004 unali kuti kumayambiriro kwa bureau meaning kuti makesi sikuti analipo ambiri. We can safely say kunena kuti kuyambira 1998 pamene bureau inakhazikitsidwa kufika 2023 we can comfortably say kunena kuti makesi amene achitwa prosecute sana kwani 1,000. Now that's where it gets a bit worrying, because that's where more focus is, at least by the general public. Agaona kuti ata anti-corruption bureau kupanga ikupita ntchito ndiye kuti amanga munthu ampanga prosecute. Koma ukaona ndi 25 years ndi less than 1,000 cases sizikukwirayi. So that's why ndiwena kuti ndi picture kuti ili mixed, muli zabwino muli zosakhala bwino, koma all in all that's why we are here kunena kuti izinthu zomwe zachitika 25 years ndipo mukuona kuti ma levels of corruption in Malawi muno ali otani, kuti 25 years yobwera tisinthe tingapange chani. So yeah, that's why we're having this commemoration.
Kuti amalawi ambiri minaso menanguonani apa kuyembekezera zokuti atiuze kuti kodi zikukhala bwanji office yawo siti kuona kuti mwina anthu amene amangidwa zinthu mwina zikuchitika motani zikuyenda motani. Like you have said, out of 35,000 cases 400 amene apita kubwalo la milandu,
less than 1,000.
Less than 1,000. Chifukwa chani?
Yeah, chifukwa chonena kuti law enforcement is not easy, okay? So mukaona kuti makesi ambiri anapangidwa lodge, koma out of 35,000 actually only about 10,000 were actually investigated, and out of that even lesser were completed. Even lesser would have been referred for prosecution. Chifukwa in its very nature, law enforcement is not easy. Kupanga investigate makesi ndi kupanga prosecute makesi zimatenga nthawi kwambiri, and you should know kunena kuti focus kwambiri si makhala low level corruption, focus ambiri imakhala grand corruption. And when we talk about grand corruption, ndi makesi amene mukwane nawo anthu amakhudza high profile people but also involving billions of kwacha. Yeah, so those cases by their very nature they attract a lot of challenges. It starts with my technical issues. Pamakhala case into 1 year. Ineyo shikaile ni mupio ndaona case into almost 1 year. Sinafika ndipo lenga play bomb. Goma every time it goes to court, it's one thing after another. Procedural issue, technical issues being raised one after another, and by their very nature they attract very good lawyers. Yeah, who take each and every opportunity to bring out some legal point. Yes, is to make sure the process is fair, but it also ensures that the cases are delayed. So by their very nature, those cases are very difficult to investigate, and even if you investigate, to prosecute, and even if to prosecute, to actually complete the prosecution and get a conviction. I mean, we have a live case of which everyone talks about, the Cashgate case of Mpio. It has taken, how long has it taken in the courts? More than 10 years. And up to now, we are still talking of no judgment on that case. So that's a very clear example of how difficult it is to deal with grand corruption cases.
Like you have said, kuti mwina nature ya cases amene mumakhala mupanga handle ndi ovuta ndotenga nthawi ma investigations ndi zina zotero. Mwina amalawi nthawi zambiri mwina kumangobwera ku ACB kuti amanga munthu, kenako the next thing what we are hearing they are still investigating. Mwina pamene patimafuna amalawi amvetsetse kuti what happens, investigation first, arrest first, what happens ku ACB pankhani imeneyo kuti amalawi amvetsetse bwinobwino mwina nkhani zikamachitika motero.
Apo ndinene ndithu mosaopa chilichonse komanso mwachimvemveve ACBC manga munthu isanamalize ma investigations. Ayi pamene mwaona bureau kuti yakafika poti yamanga munthu, truth be told ma investigations amakhala kuti tamaliza. It's unlike muna nthawi zina polisi tatha tuwerenga kuti amanga koma kupemphabe nthawi kuti apange investigate. Ife ku bureau siti panga zingazi zimachitika ndi kuti ndiyapo koma panopo with all the lessons we are learning, especially from judgment from the courts and directions, indeed. And actually panopo based on recent judgments zomwe zatuka ku court tafika pajaponena kuti nkhani ya disclosure mwina imatuka ma disclosure ACB sinapereka ma disclosure chifukwa chonena kuti the practice before at least this year was always kuti timamanga kai munthu ndiye tikapita kwa timakatamize ma investigations. We have the documentation komano kuti tikapita no ku court
kuja. That includes all the recent high profile cases.
Yes, so tikapita ku court kuja timapezeka kuti munthu amakatenga plea. After that pamene timadikira kuti atiuze kuti ma disclosures mupereke within this period. That has been the practice komano kwatukano maruling ku court amene achita kuonetsatu, and we agree with that position when kuti musana make sure that the disclosures are already found such that siku lamwe kubwera naye munthu ma disclosures akhale kuti ali ready. So all I'm saying is we are even taking it step further kuti sitimamanga munthu sinamaize ma investigation koma even panopo taziuza kunena kuti sitimanga pokapoka tili ndi bando ya ma disclosures kunena kuti siku lamwe tikumanga munthu ma disclosures iso ali ready. Yes.
Nde mwina mene mwafotokozera ACP kuti nkhani isikuthera ku ACP kokha. Mwamanga munthu mwamufufuza mwachita china chilichonse mukupita naye ku bwalo la milandu. Mwina nthambi za chilungamo zikugwira bwanji polimbana ndi nkhani yakatangale.
So mukatengera mwina interagency cooperation yathu ndoti tukamba za polisi, DPP, Finance Intelligence Authority. I think from where I'm standing, the cooperation is going on quite well. Yeah, isizingatheke kuti pena anthu matha kukulana olokutana koma generally we are working very well. There are a number of cases that we are doing together. I think in the press briefing I mentioned about 2 cases that we are really working together to ensure kuti so tibange enforce the interagency cooperation. Komaso kuti makesi apite they should go on smoothly. So in terms of us as LOES, I believe that things are well. But then kuti makesi waendi, it's not only us. We are talking of the defense. We are talking of the courts. So they also have to play their role. At the end of the day, the whole system has to work together to make sure the cases go through.
As it is, you have been in the system. You have seen it all. So you are still pursuing cases. Amene mwina kutsogolo kuti khaletu kuwatambasula Malawi akufuna adziwe. Mukuona kuti mwina vuto kwenikweni pamene pakumajama zinthu ndi patipati.
Well, each agency has got its own mandate. So obviously they would look at ensuring that their mandate is enforced. So for now I cannot really say this, but all I know is that maybe we could do better. If you know what I mean.
Zingachitike motani beta wake kuti kodi tingachite motani kuti nthambi zimene zonsezi zikugwira ntchito limodzi molimbana ndi nkhani zakatangale mudziko muno zigwire bwino ntchito kuti tilimbane ndi nkhani yakatangale.
Yeah, I think we need to have one objective. Kulena kuti tufuna tithetse katangale and tufuna tithetse katangale in earnest. Now how do we work together towards that? So that's all I can say on that.
Tidakali pankhani yomwe yokhuzana ndi kugwira ntchito ndi nthambi zosiyana-siyana pankhani yolimbana ndi katangale. Like you have said, we are sure kuti ACP simangogwira yokha. There is DPP, yes. There is Attorney General Menemo, komanso tinene kuti nthambi yonse ya Ministry of Justice ngati mugwira bwanji ndi nthambi zimenezi polimbana ndi nkhani zakatangale mdziko muno.
Yeah, generally as I've said kuti tikugwira ntchito bwino. We are able to get the direction, the assistance that we need as and when we need it. It's not like we get everything. Yeah, I'm not here saying we get everything that we want, but I think I cannot just sit here and say sit utandizana quick. So I'm saying we could do better. But I wouldn't say the situation is bad. No, I wouldn't say that because we are able to work well together, especially with fear. We are working very well together.
It was visible kuntundwa Malawi kuti zikuoneka ngati maofesi atatu awa kapena kwambiri kwa maofesi yanu ndi ofesi ya DPP zimaoneka kuti mwina panali kusambetsetsana kwina ndi kwina kukokana kwina ndi kwina pano zikuenda motani.
Ndithu zikuenda bwino. Yeah, and what is nanga simple zonena kuti ona DPP wina nawo pali DPP wina so I wouldn't want to comment on that because maybe antwena wali pasali pano kuti angapange comment. But otherwise I think the relationship is pretty good.
Are you sure? From deep inside you, Malawians are watching. Are you sure?
As I'm saying, I wouldn't say it's 100%. There are some areas probably that we could do better, okay? And I will not go into details on probably this because they are not here, as I'm saying. But by and far, we are doing very well. Yeah.
Mwina nkhani zina zitibweranso motsama kumene tikupitako. Mwakhala mukuyankhula mbuyo kwambiri mutango khala pa udindo umenewo kumene ngati mkulu wa bungwe limene la ACB munafotokozapo kuti nkhani zambiri zakatangale zikuchitika mu boma kumbali ya kagulidwe kakatundu pa Chingerezi kuti procurement. Mwina mukuona kwanu mwaona zokuti vuto kwenikweni ndi chani? Is it the system itself kapena the people that are running the system?
Yeah, so I think 30 months later, after saying that, or 29 or 30 months later, it remains a big problem. Public procurement remains the most fertile ground for corruption for various reasons, but the major one being that that's where private sector and public sector meet. So for me, it's the systems. The systems and the cultures that are in public service are so allowing or enabling the kind of corruption that we have. And also you find that the corruption in public procurement is also largely facilitated or motivated by political party financing. So yeah, you find that these are systems and cultures that have been there for a long time, and regardless of change of the leadership within those public institutions or whoever, you find that those cultures remain. And so every time we are just changing the people, but the systems remain the same. Yeah.
Mwina muona kuti zimenezi zingasinthe motani?
Yeah, so that's where now we are thinking of 25 years, like me as head of SEB. These are, I mean, I've looked at the data which I presented, and it's not encouraging. It's not what you would want to see. And then you look at the corruption problem that we have. So when you look at what can we do Tingabangeshani, one thing that I know and which I've already mentioned is kuti and how much to focus on law enforcement. And to amene wamangi kwachitika procurement amene wamangidwe. Law enforcement alone silithandiza kuthetsa katangale. All right, and abandanena kuti kuli ma systems and their cultures. Law enforcement or prosecution imeti mapanga icha si mapanga address the cultures, si mapanga address the systems, imango panga address the particular issue, the particular individual amene wapanga. It's so disconnected to those cultures. So for me, I would want kuti the direction we should take first and foremost is to address the corruption systems that are there in the country, the systems that are there in the country, and make them corruption resistant. And that will not require, that will entail us not looking at the whole country as a whole, because corruption. Sometimes probably it feels good, it sounds good, but it may not be a true reflection of the situation. Because from what I've seen in my 29 months on the job, I've seen that there are good people within the public service, people with integrity, ethical people who are trying, who are working side by side with the most corrupt. And then there are also some public institutions that are trying to do right, but they are working side by side with other pretty corrupt public institutions. And it can go limodzi nkumango panga paint a picture zima bezeka bekuti mwina so situkupanga acknowledge the efforts zomwe anthu ena kupanga. So the point I'm trying to make is, going forward, I would love kuti much as it focus in makhala law enforcement, we should complement that with the integrity systems within the public service, and that tisangopanga ngati dziko nthawi imodzi koma tiyambe institution by institution, institution by institution, look at the system, looking at the people, and seeing kodi tingaipange strengthen bwanji ndicho linga choena kuti munenazo tukamba pano kuti procurement public procurement corruption tiyambe kuzigumula such that olo munthu abwere peza kuti ma structures aja palibe system yomwe ingampange support yomwe ingampange enable to commit that corrupt act.
You have been in office for 29 months.
Yeah.
Mwatero.
Yes.
Mukuona kuti nkhani yakatangale pakadali pano mukutha kuisiyanitsa bwanji zaka 4 zitatu zapitazo ndi pano.
I think one thing that I can comfortably say is that in the recent years or months, takwanitsa kupanga depoliticize anti-corruption fight, because I think the trend was always kuti kukashoka boma ili ndi pamene anti-corruption bureau imamanga anthu amboma alinapita. So in other words, there was this perception kunena kuti anti-corruption bureau imagwisa ntchito as a political tool. Kuma we decided early in 2021 kunena kuti let's depoliticize, and probably maybe the motivation was not to depoliticize. The motivation was more, let's make an impact in the anti-corruption fight. And so we decided to deal with current corruption, the corruption that is happening at that moment, to deal with it severely and swiftly. It's not an easy feat, okay? But I think based on the cases that are going on in courts, we have ably managed to demonstrate that. That alone is a deterrent factor that you bring in. So when you ask me, that is what we have done. We have depoliticized, and I think in actionable terms, we have also try to demonstrate that impunity is not guaranteed.
We have seen a number of cases of which and Malawians would love to know my cases amene mo interview yatuyo panoba. How have you demonstrated that? We want practical maybe examples on how you have demonstrated that as ACB.
Yes, we have dealt with corruption happening in the current government. We have issues of Zunet Sata. Yeah, the cases that are in court to do with people that are in current government. So I don't know how else you want me to demonstrate that, because that's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, mabwera ku makeses amene mukwaachulawo pakadali pano mwina tikabwerera mbuyo pang'ono makeses amene mwina ndikale lija limene Amalawi anayamba kumva. Amalawi, they would wish to know kodi what's the progress of those cases now. Okay. And what is it that it is taking long mwina Amalawi kuti aone ma results enieni. Kumayambiro kwa interview munakamba kuti kunjako anthu akakamba nkhani yakatangale amafuna aone ma results ake pompo pa nkhani limbana tikatangale.
Yeah, and makhajo kuti ulochimamvuta great ataizo sakafuna tinya tikupanga be investigate case in court nchipake ndanena.
Yet you have told us here kuti my investigations zabo khala kuti achitika kale as ACB.
Yes, and we are not investigating. The cases that I'm talking about that are in court, they are no longer under investigations. We are prosecuting. Okay, so I'll give you an example ya kesi ya kunokma. Ndi kesi yonena kuti I think tinayamba 2021. The last hearing, I think inachitika if I'm not mistaken last year June or July. Okay, but you find kuti for almost 1 full year panalibeko hearing. Okay, mugaona malizonzi maybe a few would be from the bureau, a few would be from the defense, a few would be from the court itself. 1 full year we didn't panalibepo hearing iliyonse. All right, that's 1 year yomwe yadutsa opanda case kupanga progress yangoyamba I think a month ago pamene tambaso kupitiliza. So mukamanena kunena kuti makesi akuchedwa, it's exactly what I'm talking about here. These are complex cases, they take time. So that case is proceeding, but it's taking time.
Madam DG, tofuna pamene popopo poti it takes time. Yes. Why does it take time? Yet you have told us mwina umambe kwa interview kuti you are working very well ndi my agencies wose. Malawians would want to know why is it taking time?
Yes, once it's in prosecution, you wouldn't talk about fear cooperation, you wouldn't talk about DPP, you wouldn't talk about Attorney General cooperation. We are talking of maybe availability of the judges. All right, So whilst there could be times when situ kutapita ukoti famuna kuti nesisala averapo koma you find kunena kuti nthawi zinaso ajaji wakulibe ndemuta that contributes to the delays in the cases. So I don't know how else you want me to explain this, but it is what it is.
Tiwerere mbuyo pang'ono nthawi imene mumasankhidwa kukhala DG wa bungwe limene la ACB, everyone was excited, and tikukumbukira bwino lino kuti paki inaza fotokoza kuti yayi Martha Chizuma sanapambane ndithu mayiso awo amene tachita ngati komiti ya bungwe limene la PAC, koma kunjako anthu ana ndinene kuti kuuwa kapena unazo sizingatheke potengera ndi mbiri yanu ndi ntchito mmene munagwirira muli mkulu wa ombudsman. You are excited kuti mukutengano udindo umenewu wa mkulu wa ACB ndikunama?
Let me not comment on that.
You have to say something. Were you excited or not, considering from where you were coming from?
Okay, maybe excited would not be the right word to use, but I felt I needed to save my country in that position. Yes.
And I remember that time muna nena kuti ngati mkulu wa bungwe la ACB mukautenga udindo umenewu mukufuna mufike pa level ijayo kuti wina aliyense ku Malawi kuno azifika pochita mantha kuchita katangale. Everyone should feel uncomfortable. You said kuti even in the communities aliyense should feel uncomfortable kubanga katangale. Have you achieved that?
I think I want to make Malawians uncomfortable with corruption, and because at that moment it felt like corruption is like it was like normal. We had normalized corruption, and if you are to ask me, have you achieved that to a great extent? I believe that we have managed to achieve that. Have we achieved it all? Probably not, because we still find people really going around and engaging themselves in corrupt acts, feeling that they're untouchables. But I believe that, and at that time when I was giving that response, I already had this in mind. Kuti ndigabida office, ndigagabanga report. This is what I want. I want really to kind of give the corruption situation in the country quite a heavy blow to make sure, let's stop it, like cut it. And that's why I'm saying dealing with current corruption swiftly and severely, like, you know, cut it. We may not deal with each and every case, but you can demonstrate that this is not acceptable anymore.
Yeah, you have said Kuti, you have achieved it slightly. Maybe we may wish for you to explain to us more, Kuti, how have you achieved that? And in your current administration, ACB, are you seeing people being uncomfortable slightly in doing corruption in the country?
There's so many.
How we may wish to get examples.
So, I may not mention names, but there are so many people probably from Capital who have said, hey, Masuka do my work. All right? Hey, Masuka no gumana kuti Tifu said, everything is in order. So yes, that I've managed to get. Is it everyone? Probably not. Even as I'm talking to you, okay? There are so many who could be saying that, but I think we've demonstrated that we can do that.
In the program ya exclusive interview pano pa Zodiac ndipo program ya chalero tikucheza ndi mkulu wa bungwe la ACB Martha Chizuma. Tikupitirabe kucheza kwathu, takhalani pomwepo. Tikulandirensoni ku program yathu ya exclusive interview pompano pa Zodiac. Program yathu ya lero tikucheza ndi Martha Chizuma amene ali mkulu wa bungwe la ACB mu dziko lino la Malawi. Munafotokozapo kuti slightly you have managed to achieve zinthu zina zimene munkafuna kuti mupange achieve ku bungwe limeneli la ACB slightly. Zatsala ndi ziti?
Maybe I didn't say slightly. I said yes, to an extent.
To an extent.
Yeah, because slightly is like small. Yes.
To an extent.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I think we've managed to do that. Look, I'm not sitting here today kuti tabanga achieve chilichonse sitinapange achieve chilichonse chomwe timafuna. Maybe many things to panopo simene nakafunira kuti sikhaire. I was an ombudsman before I came to ACB, and now being in the criminal justice system, we will see all these challenges. Like, it's been quite an eye-opener for me to see how long and how difficult it is to prosecute especially grand corruption cases. Something that probably when I was outside, I wouldn't have known more of the nuances that go into this kind of things. I've seen how we've put effort in cases, like effort, a lot of effort in this kind of cases, but you see the movement is very small. So those are some of the things that I've come to realize now being inside, and probably they have also contributed to maybe non-achievement of probably everything that I had believed that we could achieve.
Maybe apart from the challenges that you have mentioned earlier in this interview, what are some of the challenges that you're facing causing you not to fulfill or what you had wanted to achieve in this office?
Yeah, everywhere across the world, even when I talk to my colleagues within SADC or beyond, there's always very high expectation on the anti-corruption body chief or the anti-corruption bureau or body itself, to an extent that there are times that people can easily flip to say, you understand it? And when there's a lot that you've done, but it's just that probably the expectations were out of this world. And I do not blame people. Maybe I need to be clear. I do not blame them, because if we go out there and tell people, people actually hear that and people expect that to actually happen. And let's face it, in a country like ours where corruption is pretty pervasive, people are expecting blood. I always put blood not as a blood, but people want to see the people that are suspected to be stealing in handcuffs and thrown into jail. So I always say people want blood in that sense because they are fed blood every day. So they expect. So when probably they don't see that happening as soon as possible, it's easy for people to start losing trust in the anti-corruption body. But on the other hand, I sit here now being in the anti-corruption body, looking at the realities that you face, the challenges that you face, and sometimes where you feel that you are not fulfilling the expectations of the people. There's always that imbalance and maybe feeling of I'm not doing probably my job. So I hope I've been clear, but maybe not as clear.
I'll go back to my question.
Yes.
What are those that have caused you not to fulfill or to achieve what you had wanted to achieve in this office?
Yeah, so I've always mentioned that you cannot completely divorce politics from anti-corruption fight, especially in a context like ours where the expectation is get the big people, investigate them, put handcuffs in them, throw them in jail. And because you cannot divorce politics from that, we should also know that politics in many ways determine so many things, the running of so many things in the country, and you cannot take out anti-corruption from that. So I may not be as clear as you may want it to be, but that's where I was.
What I wanted to ask from you, DG, Guti, are you trying to tell us, Guti, there is a political interference? There is political interference in ACB.
There shall always be political interference.
How bad is it now?
I wouldn't be able to probably give it a score, or a measurement, but it's there. To a greater extent, I think we have managed to to maintain our independence, that ultimately there will always be politics in anti-corruption fight.
On the issue of political interference, I mentioned about you the time you were ombudsman, and tunditwa matawona zokuti kuli mayuko. Everyone was talking about Martha Chizuma, which maybe might not be the case now. Looking at you as the Martha Chizuma wagu ombudsman, ndi Martha Chizuma wagu ACB panopa, inuyo mwinwage mumata uzisiyanisa bwana.
Well, I've never given that so much thought
of doing your work and performing on the best of the country.
Yes, so ombudsman of course will rank higher in terms of the performance, and you know the reason? There I did not have to depend on other institutions. So ombudsman, you would start an investigation, you investigate yourself, you come up with a determination yourself. Whilst here we investigate and then we take the matter to court. At that point we have no control on how things should flow. There's the court, as I've said, there's a defense, there are other players in between that also have to play a role to ensure that that investigation actually results in a completion of the prosecution and at least a determination at the end. So it's very different in the sense that at ombudsman, I'll start an investigation, finish, make a determination on our own without relying on any institution or any other body.
So should we conclude kuti zimene Malawi kunja kwakuganiza kuti mwina mukukanika kugwira ntchito ngati Iron Lady nthawi anthu amatero kuti Iron Lady untouchable mukanika kugwira ntchito because of this all the controls and the political interference?
You are emphasizing on the political interference. What I'm telling you, like there are cases, I'm sure Malawi want to see case imene mwabanga investigate yapingidwa prosecute yatha ku court. Ndikukuwuzani kuti prosecution iyo yomwe anthu akuifunayo si bureau yokha. Ndi court hiso iwenena kupanga kumbali yake, ndi defense side yomwe iwenena kupanga mbali yake. Until all these three work as quickly as Malawians want, that will never be achieved.
What do you make out of what happened to you in December last year?
And probably things that I wouldn't really want to comment on, because those are not I wouldn't want to comment on, especially in an interview like this one. But I think what I've mentioned is that it's something that I did not expect. It's something that probably I still sit here and say what really happened. There's a lot of things that I went through around that time, which also speaks to probably some of the questions that you are asking me now, because the issues I was dealing with at Ombudsman, you should know that at Ombudsman the stakes are not as high. At Ombudsman you were just talking about you abused your office, correct it like this. Here we are talking of a possibility of people being thrown in jail, yeah, and the stakes are always high, and therefore the pushback will always be higher, and it will be very vicious. When they say corruption fights and it fights back, these are some of the experiences that I can personally and safely say that I've gone through.
Mwina ndinene muchishewa kuti amalawi kunja kuna onso amvetsetse bwinobwino anakamba apo kuti pano patu kamba pano mwina amalawi tikuwaona Martha Chizuma kuti sakugwira ntchito imene timayembekezera because of political interference imene tikukamba pano, komanso mwina zimene zinachitikira zowamanga zija mwina here and there it has affected her. Do you think that also affected your work, your arrest in 2022 in December? I
think it would be naive of anyone to say that that didn't affect me. It did. So I still go through traumatic episodes up to now. So yeah.
So how are you handling that?
No, so that's something that I'm doing in my own personal space, yeah.
Amalawi ambiri ndukhulupirira zokuti atodichitira umboni kuti they want to hear from you kuti kodi nkhani yokhuzana ndikatangale kuyenda bwanji, and I've been following you mwina ma speeches anu ambiri mumayankhula pa podium angakhala anthu andale ali pomwepo mopanda mantha kuti mwina anthu enanso ma perpetrators akatangale tili nawo pompano amabweranso pa podium ndikumazalankhula nkhani zolimbana ndikatangale katangale koma iwo akuchitabe katangale mdziko muno zikutherani bwanji pa nkhani zimenezi kuti you have your bosses there, they are political figures, and ambiri mwinanso amene akuchita katangale kwambiri they are the same people, your bosses that we can call your bosses, and inonso kukuli Malawi amene they are expecting more from you kuti mwina aone zotsatira pa nkhani yolimbana ndi katangale. How are you handling that?
Oh, so I wouldn't really be able to say specifically when I said what, but what I know is that personally, just take me as Martha for now, I do hate corruption in whatever form it comes. This is probably what motivates me probably to say or do some of the things that I do, because corruption has been very disruptive in Nigeria. Corruption yachita chipongwe dziko, yachita chipongwe anthu ake. Mukaona dziko la Malawi, mukaona maiko 10 amene alo osaukitsitsa, Malawi ili pamene kukhali pa number 3, ena matili pa number 4, koma still it's one of the 10 poorest countries pa dziko lonse lapansi. Mukaona anthu makantile 1 kufika 10 onsewo anapitako ku nkhondo. Malawi yokha is an outlier. More list either from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. It's an outlier. Tazambi ndi mafunsidwa ndikakhala kuti ndakhala mwina ndazinzanga on the same position. Kodi umalikonda kulimbikira kugamba za kwanu umadandaula kwambiri umazitenga personal, why do you do this? For me, it's because much as the amounts, because most of them say amount imene kuidandaula ndiyo mwe, when you put it in dollars. Ndama imene kuidandaula ndiyo mwe, ndipenda kuti kwa inu ndiyo shepa. But look at my country, it's a pretty poor country. It doesn't have as much. So when that money is stolen, you feel it immediately. So mukanena kuti kwabedwa ndalama za fertilizer or muti kwabedwa ndalama za mankhwala, immediately the bluntness of that muntu wa Malawi amayiva kufuwa tilibe ma social safety nets ngalimene amachitikira mdziko. So with that it ndikafika pamene I don't think ndi machita my focus is on the damage it has caused, not probably how other people may not view what I'm saying to be something that's favorable to them. So my motivation, or when I'm in that state, or when I'm talking about those things, all I'm trying to do is to make a point when I could and let's stop.
Bili mwina zokhuzana ndi katangale zimene anthu akhala kupanga report ku ACB. Nkhani zina munapanga committee, munavomereza ngati ACB kuti you are investigating those cases, among which ndi nkhani yokhuzana ndi ma allegations amene Helen Buluma ananena ku bungwe la Baki mbuyomu, and ACB munabwera nkunena zokuti nkhani zimenezi tikuzifufuza, specifically nkhani zake zinali zokhuzana ndi SPC Madam Colini Zamba kuti mwina amalowererako zina kumbali yobweretsa anthu kuti mwina apange supply mafuta ndi zina zotero. Munanena kuti you are investigating that matter. Where are we? What's the progress on that investigation now?
We opened the file immediately after zinthu zitachitika, so kuti sindinakonzekere kwambiri, makesi wali kwambiri sindingakumbukire chilichonse. But what I know is kuti tinatsegula file. I think there's a team that is looking into that. All I know is kuti panthawi kenana ndipangira report titafusidwa so ndi report onena kuti tubukanika kupeza ma documents, and I think we had some discussion on that. So since mwamkhangale mwandipanga ambush, it's very difficult kuti ndine specifically, but what I know is kuti we have a file on that. The file was opened and that there's an open investigation on that issue.
Should we expect any results coming out from that investigation?
Surely there will be results. The only thing I cannot guarantee is kuti the result may come within the time nanomwe Amalawi angakonde, because as I said, my investigations are umatha kuyamba ngati ikhala simple, but as you start investigating you find kuti there are so many things that you have to look at.
Paliso my investigations pomwepo pali nkhani yokhuzana ndi Honorable Ezenho Wangaga, nkhani yawo yokhuzana ndi manong'ono amene ankamveka kunjaku kuti nawonso mwina akukhuzidwa nawo ndi nkhani zokhuzana ndi kulandira ziphuphu kuchokera kwa mkulu wina wochita malonda a Zunetha Sata. ACB munabweranso kuti nkhani imeneyo tikuyifufuza zili bati zimenezo.
Yes, it's also an open investigation that is continuing. And maybe I should just add, because there's a lot of interest in everything Zunetha Sata related. Ngati mumapanga follow zimene zikuchitika ku court on at least some of the cases zomwe zili ku court panopo. You find that there are so many issues, procedural, technical issues that are coming out. Largely yomwe ikumatuka kwambiri ndi issue ya mutual legal assistance. Kwena kuti the information yomwe tinayilandira ku UK, kodi information imene ndi evidence kapena ndi just intelligence imatuluka nkhani imeneyi yatulukanso even ma recent case amene alowa apapawo. Kunatuka judgment ya Justice Kapindo in May 2022, which said no, ACB can use that evidence. My arrest amendment nachita nthawi manager, it was on the basis of that ruling. Now we can use this evidence we can use information that as evidence in court. Now ngasema kesa now ayambano zeni. So there's still a number of technical issues that we are still grappling with. I mean, recently there was also an issue that came about. The judge had to make a ruling. When I would know you can proceed because you received this evidence, it was within the law and everything. So we are continually grappling with that. Case manager, the Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters Act. In our research, sitting a base of case or remotes, you may not adjudicate that law. A law you may have 50 years. So it's only now when we have adjudicated this law. So it would be unreasonable of us when I would indicate a investigation and be tinting what and totigas on a court Tisana when it says when I put what a cotiwa, a kutamba sula branch, Tima issues don't did ba la muloidi, Loma in the low yamba, or yamba, Zikola Malarian, who did it present sheet. So Penatuma Kanga to 10-20 minutes to see and daily. As we go, as things get more clear, more na so na what my guests as it does.
Dafuso chifukwa choti munanena kumayambiriro kuti mene munakhala pampando mene wamkulu wa ACB approach yanu munafuna kuti ikhale yosiyana muyambe with the current cases in the current administration. Mwanena kuti chani, correct me please. I would wish to get you correctly and not wrongly.
Yes, that doesn't. I did not say ndifuna ndiyambe. All I said was the perception there was kunena kuti mwana wa ACB ndiye kuti udzingobanga makesi akale amene analipo nthawi ya DPP government or the previous governments. That was the perception. That was what would be expected based on matrix Benamaindela. But we said no, we will also deal. So it's not like I'm saying Taiwala is, because you find even within the same period, Mwina and Hamene Amangidwa from the previous government are more than Amena Mangidwa current government. So it's within the what? The same period, meaning we are dealing with both. So I wanted to correct you there. Yes.
On the same list, investigations, Malawians would also wish to know, Madam DG, kuti munayamba bonso ma investigations okuzana ndi abuse of office ya former DPP Stephen Kayuni. Where are you with those investigations?
That case was continued by the DPP.
The case about Stephen Kayuni.
That case that you are mentioning, it was discontinued by the DPP.
No, I
wouldn't comment on that.
All right. In Sata-related cases, almost most suspects are accused of receiving bribes from Sata, and we understand and we know that Bwana Kabondangaga was allowed to give back the bribes and be left scot-free. Maybe can you just explain on this issue? Malawians, they still have questions over this issue of Kabondangaga case.
So I think the way you put it to me, is completely wrong because let me state like this. When we started with my investigations, Zone Santa, there was a concentration on 6 names. Tina Banga concentrated and these are the 6 that Panobo I can safely say at least Amino Tamariza, Ena Mukoti, and the Chief of Staff, Mr. Kabonda Gaga. So, Ndine Jonji, Tikama Banga my investigations and make a decision to prosecute. Sitima Banga prosecute based on allegations, on beliefs, or perceptions. Okamapita ku court ngati prosecutor kumafuna kukhale ndi umboni oyena kuti mulandu umene abweretsa against layer ndoyena kuti anapanga abuse office olo analandira chiphuphu ndipo umboni wake ndi uwu. Umboni sukautenga mu perception commentary ya media kapena wherever pwene mukitenga umboni kwena kukhala omwe muli nawo. So all in all, in short, what I can say is that with Kabonda Gaga, we had finished my investigations and it was that determination. My investigation tamaliza. Umbono mene tili nawo. Ndoena kuti ndikapita nawo ku court. Ukapanga stand against the standard yomwe imakhalabo which is proving beyond reasonable doubt. Assessment yosiyama office, and you should know it's not a one-man decision. It goes through different channels. Was kuti pena pake pakulepeleka, pena pake pakuoneka popelewera. That Mr. Kabonda Gaga received things, money and whatever, is not in dispute. But did he receive that corruptly? Because you have to prove that he received that corruptly. And that corruptly, it could be someone who knows that he received corruptly. But me as a bureau, us as a bureau, me as an investigator, me as a prosecutor, I need to have that evidence that I can bring before the court that indeed he received and he received corruptly. That was where we felt the evidence was lacking. But it was put to him during investigations, at least that's what was reported to me, that we know that you received this. And we looked at the legal instruments on the issue, and we found in the Public Ethics Code, the Malawi Public Service Ethics Code, it prohibits receipt of gifts and whatever by public servants in a manner that it happened, but that code is not creating a criminal offense. I hope you understand. That code is not creating a criminal offense. It's a disciplinary issue, it's an administrative issue. And when it was put to him, we said, no, it's this done this way. That was what happened. So it's not like it wasn't like that.
Still on those cases, as we are asking those cases one by one, tinaona mlandu wa mtsogoleri wakale Bakiri Muluzi ukuthetsedwa posachedwa apa ndi ndalama zingati mwina zimene munga fotokoze ngati bungwe la ACB linagwiritsa ntchito pa mlandu umene uja.
Okay, so you have really ambushed me there because I wouldn't remember, but it's quite a lot of money that was spent investigating and prosecuting that case, because I think there were other parts of the investigation that had to be carried outside the country, so it means air tickets and everything. So yes, it's quite a good amount of money.
Mwina ndondomeko ziti zimene zinakazikitsidwa kapena munakazikitsa pothetsa mulandu umene mwina anthu ena kunjaku amatha kumafunsa kuti kodi ndondomeko zonse zinatsatiridwa zoyenereka kutsatiridwa mulandu pothetsa pa mulandu umenewu. Mutha kuti fotokozera zotani kuti ndondomeko zonse zoyenereka zinatsatiridwa bwinobwino pakuthetsa pa mulandu umenewu? Ndi a DPP
ndipo ofunika kuwafunsa ndi akwa DPP ine sindingayankhe.
Potengera kuti office ndimafuna ndibwere kumene kuti office ya DPP ndimene inathetsa mulandu umenewu. As ACB, would you have loved to still proceed with this case?
I think that is either here or there for me to actually explain further on that. The DPP has got legal powers. The DPP discontinued that case. That's all I can say.
pelele pankhani ngalenga khale mafuso ano mukuyankha kwake madam DG mukuyankha kuti mukuyankha ndithu mothawa mozembazemba mosunga china chake. Are you afraid of anything?
No. No. But I'm also aware usually things like this can be misinterpreted in many ways. I really have to be cautious of that as well. So that ultimately I should be able to give you the information, I should be able to talk to Malawians, but in a manner that does not open it to further speculation and everything. So that's probably what I'm trying to do here.
Pamene tupita kumapeto ndi interview yathuyi timafuna mwina mungu tifotokozerako ngati mkulu wa bungwe la ACB mwina dziko la Malawi timalitenga kuti ndi dziko loopa mulungu, a God-fearing country. When you consider what you encounter in your office and what you are encountering now, do you still believe in yourself, or do you still believe kuti dziko lino la Malawi is really a God-fearing country in terms of corruption?
God-fearing country, what do you mean?
Dziko loopa mulungu.
Can you break it down?
You know, how do you understand that as a God-fearing country?
Asking me the question, so you should know exactly what you're asking, because I want to be very specific when I'm responding to that, other than just putting it in general.
You're a believer, right? You know what God-fearing is.
Here, no, there. I want, because you are the one who has asked the question, I want you to tell me your understanding of that, so that I can actually respond properly to your question.
And I've asked you a question. You're a God-fearing, and you are here in Malawi, and we talk about Malawi being a God-fearing country. How do you understand that, and how do you relate that, being a God-fearing country, and the way we are handling issues of corruption in the country?
Okay, so you are not going to explain your understanding of God-fearing, because you are the one who asked me the question, so I wanted to respond in the context of your understanding.
I'm sure you're also you know what I'm talking about, that we are a God-fearing country and you don't need interpretation from anyone on that. You are still in this country and you see what is happening.
Yeah, but I can explain corruption situation even outside being the God-fearing country, and I would say that from everything that I've seen, I don't know what word to use to describe how I feel about our corruption, because one thing that I've come to realize is how easy it is to condemn corruption when we are in a group collectively, but when it comes to you as Leah, when it comes to me as Martha, at that basic point or that basic unit, it's so difficult for you to refuse a bribe or to stop yourself from paying a bribe just to get a passport quicker. So when it comes to that basic unit, it's very difficult. So the point I'm trying to make is, Kulena Kuti, our corruption is I don't know if it's sinister. I don't know if it's uttered right, because it's covered in holiness. You understand? We can pretend that one, we are not corrupt, or we can pretend that no, we are so angry about corruption. But when it comes to actually you demonstrating that when it matters most, what I've seen is that it's pretty difficult. So you can find people who are so loud on social media, or you think when these people stand up and talk, you're like, ooh, wow. Next thing you see or you hear things that go like, what? Such that I think because most people probably also don't know that aspect when our corruption is well hidden. So it's hidden in things or characters that probably we cannot suspect to be corrupt. So that makes it difficult.
Amene ifeyo ngati Malawi kunja kuti kamaona sitingathe kuzindikira kapena kwazindikira kuti anthu awa ndi amene akuchita katangale kwambiri mu dziko lino la Malawi mukutanthauzanji.
Yeah, and exactly, I think the way you have put it. Kunena kuti corruption imene machitika mdziko muno, at least from the things that I've seen, one ndi ambiri komanso ili mwa anthu amene nthawi zambiri sitimapanga suspect kuti angakhala katangale, and that makes it even more complex. Yeah.
Pano tukamba pano mwina contract yana taizita chaka cha mmawa chino mu mwezi wa June mutapasidwa mwayiwina okuti mupitirire ngati DG wa bungwe limene la ACB muthakulola.
Let me not comment on that, because I think even if you had asked me this question in 2020 when I was still at the Ombudsman, kuti tsunaniza ka DG wa ACB, I would say no. I wouldn't know. So I think what I've seen with my career is God has sent me where He wants me to be at the right time. So let's cross the bridge when we get there.
Mwina mungayankhule zotani ku mtundu wa Malawi makamaka pamene mukugwirira ntchito yanu komanso zimene Malawi angayembekezere kupita chitsogolo kuchokera ku bungwe limene la ACB?
Yeah, I think I would rather concentrate more on the 25 years of ACB, because as a bureau, we are in the lead in the fight against corruption. In the fight against corruption. I keep on saying corruption has ravaged this country, and we have put in the open how the bureau has operated in the 25 years. The picture is mixed, but I think leaning more on no, we can do better and we need to do better. So as we are commemorating these 25 years and trying to reposition, we have opened ourselves up through different platforms, through different activities, that Malawians need to come and give us ideas on how we can reposition. We have seen there's evidence, empirical evidence, that we will not prosecute ourselves out of corruption as a country. Law prosecution alone cannot address the magnitude of the problem that we have. The unfortunate thing is that that's where we put much emphasis on. That's where when Malawians think of tukutana ndika tangale ndipamene tukumena make a focus. Komano tukufuna kuti no tisinthe kwena kuti complementing law enforcement. Kwa sababu law enforcement ndio lakuika. Law enforcement is such a very serious tool that Boma when it wants to validate rule of law, when it wants to validate accountability. Law enforcement alone siiteka olomutanena cha mtundu wanje olopomuleta kandi program yoyena kuti zingokamba za makeso okhaokha tikhoza kungoluza 1 hour. Impact any siiteka pakhala ka impact ka deterrence here and there, but we need to complement that with systems and structures that are resistant to corruption within the public service, within the public sector, but also to change the mindset of people such that we become a corruption-resistant society. I would rather, as we are looking into the next 25 years, that's where we need to focus more. And that is not ACB job alone. That is each one of us. It starts at that basic unit of muntu pa individual to say audience amadziwa zimamabanga amadziwa kuti akakubanda police zimamabanga akapita immigration akapita kuti getting services akudziwa zimamabanga. Why don't you start at that unit and say this year, and then because if hundreds of people decide to do that, we are going to start changing the corruption environment in the country, because it will take each individual to say Ndasia, and then 18 million people say Ndasia. The community wanna corruption levels are and some of the efforts that we are making are actually making impact. So that's where I really want us to look at as we are repositioning for the next 25 years.
The last one for today, how do you rate yourself in You have said what you have achieved and what you would wish to achieve in this office. How do you rate yourself at a max at 10? How do you rate yourself? How you have worked in the 29 months?
Yes, I'll actually leave that to you, because I wouldn't want to rate myself. I'd rather leave it to people.
You are in the office. We are seeing in also more office mwagamba kuti mukuchitika somwina zita ukhala zinthu zina zosempana ndi zimene mwazoona. How do you rate yourself?
I really want to resist from answering that for very good reasons. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Almost on the minute amalizira program yathu ya exclusive interview pano pa Zodiac, ndipo mu program yathu lero timacheza ndi mkulu wa bungwe la ACB Martha Chizuma. Program ya lero munali ndine Lea Malekano. Pitirizani kutsatira Zodiac.